According to writer Jeffrey Standen, there are 4,256 reasons to vote Pete Rose into baseball's Hall of Fame. There is one reason to keep him out. Now, that number, 4,256, represents the number of hits that Pete Rose, player for both the Cincinnati Reds and the Philadelphia Phillies, acquired over his playing career. That number is unmatched by any other player, and broke the record set by Ty Cobb decades ago. And the number one reason that he referenced was because of the one rule that Pete Rose broke, both as a player and later on in his career as a manager. That would be baseball's famous rule, Rule 21, the rule that prohibited gambling from all of baseball. Now, to have a player excluded from the Hall of Fame who holds a record that is unlikely to be broken anytime soon just seems unjust. I will demonstrate that Pete Rose should be admitted into the Hall of Fame by allowing that gambling is not punishable by a Hall of Fame ban, and that admitting Pete Rose into the Hall of Fame would not compromise the integrity of the game of baseball. After all, if you do the math, there are still 4,255 reasons to vote him in. Now, Pete Rose broke baseball's famous rule number 21. This rule was established because of the 1919 scandal, where the White Sox entered the World Series as the heavy favorite. Now, many people placed bets against them, saying that they would lose. This was so utterly ridiculous that the only way they could lose was if they did it on purpose. As it turns out, that's what happened. 8 players were banned for life from baseball because they threw the World Series, in an astonishing, unlikely victory by the Cincinnati Reds. Baseball was therefore banned forever. Gambling was banned forever from baseball. Pete Rose, who both played and managed for the Cincinnati Reds for most of his baseball career, had admitted and has been caught gambling. Now, it is interesting to note that he only ever bet for his team to win, which only makes the game more competitive instead of the opposite, which happened in 1919, making it less competitive. Now, whether or not you agree with the motives, the fact is that he had been caught gambling. Now, accepting Pete Rose into the Hall of Fame would not compromise the integrity of the game of baseball, which is the intent of Rule 21. In fact, there are many other things you could do to compromise the game, which are allowable offenses by the Hall of Fame. For example, there are many records that have been broken by steroid users. Now, to many people, using performance-enhancing drugs is even worse than gambling, because that is actually giving your team or your player an unfair advantage during the game. Gambling has no effect on the game unless it is being thrown, which there has been no evidence of Pete Rose ever doing that. It's hard to see the harm in giving this man a Hall of Fame plaque. The role of the History Museum is to educate, says the president of the Hall of Fame, Jeffrey Idelson. The premise is to inform, not to direct people one way or the other. So yes, the point of the Hall of Fame is to have records honored and players' accomplishments recognized. And since the Baseball Hall of Fame and Major League Baseball are separate entities, allowing Pete Rose into the Hall of Fame would accomplish both honoring the accomplishments that he was able to do, which have been unmatched by any other player before or since, and he would still be ineligible to return to Major League Baseball, which I believe would still honor the integrity of the game. It is apparent that Rose's ban remains a problem. It is also apparent that lifting the ban would help solve this problem. Baseball is meant to honor the best of all its players. So, I reiterate, there are still 4,255 reasons to allow Pete Rose back into the Hall of Fame.